united against Trump. Leaders from some of the world's largest powers right now joining forces to take on the White House. And the images are striking. Russia's Vladimir Putin shaking hands and laughing with Chinese President Xi Jinping and India's Prime Minister Modi, at one point even holding hands with Modi. The show of unity in China clearly designed to send a message to Trump and what Xi calls his, quote, bullying practices. The trio is notably about to be joined by another U.S. adversary, North Korea's Kim Jong Un. This is a picture of him in his bulletproof train, reportedly just now crossing into China.
My people, there's a seismic shift happening right now in global power dynamics. And this week, the world is watching as three of the most powerful and most controversial leaders stand shoulder to shoulder in Beijing. Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, and Kim Jong Un. Now, for the first time ever, these men, often branded in the West as an axis of evil for the way they rule their nations with an iron fist, are presenting a united front. And they're doing it at a moment heavy with symbolism, joining 26 other leaders in Beijing to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. Now, on the surface, it might look like just another show of military might, but look closer and you see something far more significant. The birth of a new alliance, a shift in balance of power, and a direct challenge to the US-led order that has dominated the world for generations. And here's why you should care. Because what happens in Beijing doesn't just stay in Beijing. It ripples through Washington, London, Lagos, Kingston, and Accra. It shapes the future of Africa, the Caribbean, and the global Black diaspora. So today we're breaking down this historic meeting, why it matters, and what it reveals about the future of global power and our place within it. But before we dive in, a big welcome to all of our new subscribers and members. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're watching but haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to invite you to join our family, because here at PanaGenius TV, we're building more than a channel. We're creating a home for global Black stories that are told with truth, intention, and with care. And if that matters to you, then hit subscribe. Tap the bell for alerts, and consider joining our membership community where we go beyond the headlines. And if you enjoy this video, don't just keep it to yourself. Please like, comment, share it, and drop a super thanks to support our channel. All right, now, let's get into it.
The elaborate stages have been set. The eclectic guests, leaders of 26 nations, including India, Belarus, Iran, and Russia, have arrived. But there's a latecomer. North Korean leader Kim Jong Un has crossed the border into China aboard his signature armored train. Supposedly working en route with officials inside an ornate bulletproof carriage, the third-generation dictator is on his way to Beijing's victory parade on Wednesday, though he did have time to stop for a smoke. While he travels, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization has been meeting, a projection of diplomacy and power that has been tightly choreographed by President Xi Jinping. The focus has been a series of meetings between leaders and the Chinese premier, intended on bolstering key economic and strategic relationships.
Okay, so let's start with what's unfolding this week. Beijing is hosting a massive event to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. Leaders from around the world, 26 foreign leaders, are expected to attend. But all eyes will be on three men: Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, and Kim Jong Un. For the first time ever, these leaders are set to stand side by side in public on the world stage. Now, the image itself is symbolic, a grand military parade in the heart of Beijing. Think tanks rolling down the streets, potentially fighter jets roaring overhead, missiles on display. It'll be a spectacle, not just to honor history, but to send a message about the present. If the images play out as expected, we will see Xi, Putin, and Kim shoulder to shoulder, an image carefully designed for the cameras and aimed squarely at Washington and its allies. On paper, this is about remembering the past, but in reality, it's about reshaping the future. The event is being used as a platform to show the world that these leaders, often branded by the West as isolated or weakened, are instead united, visible, and ready to challenge the US-led order. That's what makes this week so pivotal, because it's not just about who shows up in Beijing, it's about the global message that their presence together sends. Now, Putin has already held a series of meetings with Xi where they discussed strategic cooperation between the countries, global and regional issues, as well as cooperation on multilateral platforms.
Mr. Chairman, dear friend, both I and the entire Russian delegation are pleased to meet once again with our Chinese friends and colleagues. I thank you for the warm welcome extended to our entire delegation. Our close communication reflects the strategic nature of Russia-China relations, which are at an unprecedentedly high level.
So, let's break down what this really signals. This meeting in Beijing isn't just about commemorating World War II. It's about showcasing the foundations of a new alternative world order. Xi Jinping standing shoulder to shoulder with Vladimir Putin, and then later, Kim Jong Un, already sends one clear message: open defiance of the US-led West. But there is more. Ahead of the parade, Xi also met with India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, showing that China isn't only clinging to its closest allies, it's also courting other major powers that could tilt the balance of global influence. And then came the bombshell. Xi and Putin announced plans to form a new international military group designed to directly rival NATO. So think about that for a moment. NATO has been the bedrock of Western military dominance since World War II. For decades, it set the rules of engagement. Now, Beijing and Moscow are saying, we can build our own club with our own rules, and the global South is welcome. So put all of this together, and here's what we see. China provides the stage and the economic engine. Russia contributes military might and energy resources. North Korea adds a disruptive, symbolic edge. India, even if cautious, is being courted as a potential swing power. This isn't just about flexing at a parade. It's about laying down an infrastructure of power. Financial systems that bypass the dollar. Trade routes that sidestep the IMF and World Bank. Military alliances designed to compete directly with NATO. For Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora, this matters because it means that the world is no longer unipolar. The monopoly of the West is cracking, and a new bloc is openly competing for influence. And here's the key question. Do we position ourselves to use this competition to our advantage, or do we risk becoming pawns in someone else's game? Again.
But it was the visit by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, his first to China in 7 years, which has been seen as most significant. Relations between the two nations have been difficult at times, competing economically with tensions between their forces on the border. But with secondary US sanctions hitting India due to its continued purchasing of Russian weapons and oil, Modi is looking for allies to rebalance.
The Shanghai Cooperation Organization can become the guiding light for multilateralism and an inclusive world order. I'm delighted that an important statement in this regard will be published today.
But before we talk about Africa's opportunities and risks in this shifting world order, let's pause on one telling detail. Most African nations aren't even in Beijing this week. Out of the 54 countries, only 2, Congo and Zimbabwe, are sending their presidents. At least that's what we know so far. No Nigeria, no South Africa, not even the African Union. Now, that silence is powerful. It shows that while Beijing, Moscow are trying to pull the global South into their orbit, Africa isn't moving as one. Some leaders are leaning east, others still tied to the West, and many trying to keep their heads down. And that division is dangerous because history shows us when global power shifts and Africa doesn't speak with one voice, others write the rules. That's why this moment matters. The stakes are not just about tanks in Beijing or handshakes between Xi and Putin. History has taught us the hard truth. Whenever global power shifts, Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora are never on the sidelines. We're always in the middle of it, as pawns, as battlegrounds, or, if we're bold enough, as players. So what does this potential China, Russia, North Korea bloc mean for us? First, Africa. China is already the continent's biggest trading partner, from roads and railways to ports and energy plants. Beijing's fingerprints are everywhere. Russia has been quietly expanding too, not just with military ties in places like Mali and Burkina Faso, but also with grain and energy deals. If they fold Africa deeper into this new anti-Western bloc, our leaders will face sharper choices: lean east, lean west, or try to carve out independence in a world that truly punishes neutrality. Second, the Caribbean. Caribbean nations sit at the doorstep of the U.S., a region Washington has always seen as its sort of backyard. If China and Russia increase influence in that region through investment, energy deals, or security pacts, expect pushback. That could mean Caribbean nations are forced to pick sides, just as they were during the Cold War. And then lastly, the diaspora, right? Black communities in the US, the UK, and Europe will feel the heat if tensions escalate. Already, immigration, trade, and foreign policy debates are framed through the lens of East versus West rivalry. So, as global blocs harden, diaspora communities could face new pressures, being painted as loyal to the wrong side or caught in culture wars shaped by geopolitics. But here's the opportunity. For once, Africa and the diaspora don't have to just accept the role of spectator. The competition between West and East can be leveraged. African leaders could use it to demand better trade terms. Caribbean states could use it to reduce dependence on Western lenders. And the diaspora could use its political and financial capital to push for policies that put Black interests on the table in both blocs. The danger is falling into the old trap, being used as bargaining chips while others write the rules. The challenge and the call is to seize this moment to shape our own destiny. Now, my people, let's be real, right? Every global shift comes with both dangers and possibilities. And the new power axis that's forming is no different. The risks becoming pawns again. Africa could once more be treated as a chessboard where great powers play their game while ordinary people bear the cost. Debt dependency. If African and Caribbean nations swing too heavily toward China or Russia without building internal strength, they risk trading one master for another. Then you have Western retaliation. Aligning too closely with Beijing and Moscow could invite sanctions, cut trade access, or diplomatic isolation. And these are consequences that hit jobs, economies, and communities on the ground. Then you have diaspora vulnerability. In the US and Europe, Black communities could face intensified scrutiny, marginalization, or even political weaponization if East-West tensions harden. But here's the flip side, the opportunities. We can leverage through competition. With the West and the East both courting Africa and the global South, our leaders can finally demand better terms, stronger partnerships, and respect for sovereignty. And diversification. New alliances mean that we don't have to just rely solely on the IMF, World Bank, or Western aid. Africa and the Caribbean can open multiple doors for trade, energy, and security. And then the reshaping of global governance. If Africa truly speaks with one voice through the AU, through CARICOM, through Diaspora networks, we can use this moment to demand long-denied reforms, permanent UN Security Council seats, fairer trade deals again, greater influence in decision-making. And then lastly, diaspora power. Black communities worldwide are not powerless spectators. We move trillions of dollars, we shape elections, and we drive culture. So if we mobilize strategically, we can make sure this global shift reflects our strengths, not just Beijing's. So the risks are real, but so are the possibilities. The question is, will we seize this moment or let history repeat itself? My people, here's the bottom line. As Xi, Putin, and Kim take the stage in Beijing, the world is watching a possible new chapter unfold. A chapter where the West no longer calls the shots, where a rival bloc openly challenges the US-led order. And for Africa, the Caribbean, and the diaspora, this is both a warning and a window. A warning because we know what happens when global giants wrestle. Smaller nations get trampled. But also a window because for the first time in a long time, competition gives us choices. And the road ahead is clear. Africa must double down on unity through the African Union and the African Continental Free Trade Area, so no external power can divide and dominate. The Caribbean must leverage its strategic location to demand fairer partnerships, not just handshakes and handouts. And the global Black diaspora, we must recognize our collective power, political, financial, and cultural, and use it to shape policies that reflect our interests in this shifting world order. Because here's the truth. The future of global power won't just be decided in Beijing or Washington. It will also be decided in Accra, Kingston, Lagos, Atlanta. It will be decided wherever Black communities choose to organize, to lead, and to demand a seat at the table. So my people, now I turn it over to you. What do you think about this new alliance unfolding right before our eyes? Do you think this new bloc will create opportunities for the global Black world, or just make us pawns in another global power struggle? And what do we really need to be doing now to unite and ensure that we claim our seat at the table? Let me know your thoughts in the comments and let's have the conversation together. That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Sandra Babu-Boateng, and until next time, take care.